Enda is a widow without children, and this is the day of her third husband's funeral, while her first husband also died mysteriously. Mothers continue to gossip behind Enda's back, as if without caring about Enda's feelings of grief. Their marriage has only been 1 month, but fate said otherwise. The husband died today without cause. Even though last night, Enda still had time to talk with her husband, and he's in good health. Suddenly this morning, the husband was found dead in his room. There were no signs of anything. The news of this death certainly raises big question marks for residents when the funeral procession is finished. Enda was still kneeling beside the red mound, while scattering flowers on her husband's grave. This is the third time that the man who became her husband has died without cause. Since my third husband died, bad accusations continued to flow towards Enda. Many people think they have used black magic. There are also those who say that Enda is bad luck, because it always causes men close to him to die. Even though Enda felt that before, there were great hopes when she decided to marry her third husband. He hopes that all societal prejudices can be broken. However, in the end, this suspicion became stronger and led to the end. The mother is Mrs. Martini, mother of Enda's first husband. Since the death of his son, Mrs. Martini lives with Enda. Enda and Mrs. Martini both have no family. Enda's parents have also died, so that's been considered. Mrs. Martini as her own mother, from her husband's 3 families. Only Mrs. Martini did not blame him for the child's death. Her first husband died in an accident, exactly a month after getting married. No one knows the cause, but residents always accuse Enda of being the mastermind behind it all. The death of her third husband makes Enda even more traumatized, if she decides to remarry another man. The cemetery area is quiet. There were only Enda, Mrs. Martini, and her third husband's parents. Her third husband's mother was also seen still sobbing over her son's vortex. Suddenly, my third husband's mother stood up and stared sharply at Enda, the mother-in-law's angry tone getting higher and higher, looking confused and sad that can no longer be stopped. But Enda just kept silent, because even though it hurt, but what the mother-in-law said was reality. If I hadn't agreed to it first, this definitely wouldn't have happened. All the curses made Enda's tears even harder. Meanwhile, Mrs. Martini continued to calm Enda. The 2 middle-aged women, actually arguing with each other. Enda tried to intervene, because they shouldn't be like this in front of their husband's still wet grave. Finally, the dispute was over, after the husband pulled him away. My husband's parents decided to go home, while I'm still in the tomb because I feel like I want to stay here for a long time.
But just as he neared the conclusion of the tomb, an unexpected encounter halted his progress. It was Rahayu, an acquaintance of Enda, and a friend of her third husband. In the village, Rahayu and Mas Aji were always involved in activities together. It was no secret that Rahayu had a deep affection for Mas Aji in the past. Now Rahayu is spotted praying by Aji's grave, but as she walks away, a subtle smile appears on her face, leaving us to wonder what memories have crossed her mind. A few moments later, Enda and Mrs. Martini walked outside the cemetery. Coincidentally, Indy was standing on the side of the road, ready to cross, and at that very instant, Enda and Indy's eyes met, exchanging fleeting glances. Suddenly, Indy felt as if she had been transported to another dimension. Meanwhile, the memories of Enda's joyous wedding day with her third husband flooded her mind, and their domestic life continued smoothly.
However, in a closed room nearby,
a faint aroma of incense lingered. Carefully, Enda placed the incense on the table next to her slumbering husband. In front of a large mirror, Enda sat, her beautiful face reflecting back at her with a smile. She gazed at her reflection and uttered, "I will send you a sacrifice and make the beauty of my face eternal." Suddenly, a shocking sight appeared in the mirror, a large snake merging with Enda. Unfazed, Enda smiled even wider, while her oblivious husband, deep in slumber, inhaled the captivating aroma of the incense he had unknowingly ignited. Little did he know the fumes were slowly stealing his life away. As her husband's life faded, Enda's laughter grew louder, reveling in her sinister plan's success. Indy returned to reality, his eyes fixated on Enda and Mrs. Martini. It became evident that 3 male spirits followed, closely behind Enda, husbands who had met their demise at the hands of their own wives.